Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and I think it's already probably about a month ago, I received these free products from LinknLink. And as you can see, there are these very funny looking devices, and you can see that all of them connected to like a USB port, and they are sensors basically, and all of them are slightly different, but all of them use the same hardware. So this is a motion sensor which has a temperature sensor built in, and it also has infrared blaster built in, and I think it also have RF built in. And then if you don't want this big one, which is called the eHub that you can see here, but you only need a temperature and the humidity sensor, then you have this white one, which is only a temperature and a humidity sensor. Or maybe if you only need motion sensor, and then they have this other white one, which, I mean, all of them look suspiciously the same, but this only has the motion sensor built in. And actually I've taken these apart, and the whole construction is very modular. So there is like a main PCB, and depending on which model you buy, they have the temperature components built onto it, or the IR components, or the RF components, or the radar sensor built onto it. So it's it's a nice modular system, and it's a new home automation system, as it's a new ecosystem from LinknLink. So they have their own application, they have their own sort of like logic how it works, and actually I think they have a lot of different quirks, like what they can do and how they do it. So it was really interesting to see them. But they also integrate with Google Home or Alexa or Home Assistant. So if you want to use them in those environments, then they can be used there as well. Whereas, and in parallel, you can use their own application. And especially with the IR thing, I think it was interesting, because I don't see a lot of, for example, IR capable devices, especially not the ones, not so many that I can use in Google Home as well. So I was interested to try it out. And actually these guys who basically established this LinknLink company, so they have some background, because they also worked on the Broadlink RM Pro, which was, I think at a time, a very popular IR blaster. It was really fast, it was really strong, it was able to work with many different machines, like ACs and TVs and everything. So these are actually the same guys behind this company. And let me just show you something. Let me change to my view. So this is their website. Actually, let me change this view. So this is their website, and you can see that they have a lot of different solutions, and they have some interesting stuff as well. So they can do like advertising, like screen ads, some like custom controller which can put like rotating ads on the screen. Never seen like that, but maybe it has some history on that. And you can see that in the hardware they have a lot of different stuff. So these are the eHub, the eMotion, and the eTHS that I'm going to review today. But if I go through some of the other stuff, they also have intelligent boxes and photo frames, and these digital signage display. Those are the ones which work with the screen ads, and additional sensors, stuff for energy monitoring, hubs, HVAC controls, well, IR and 433 megahertz, and actually, while I was setting this up, I also found that they have started a new Kickstarter. So they are trying to create a new like a central home display with like a touch screen, and not only the touch screen, but all the things that comes with it. Like you can see that it comes with a hub, and it supports all the new protocols that are pretty common nowadays, for example Matter and Zigbee, and they work with Google, Alexa, HomeKit, Home Assistant, Siri, Apple HomeKit, and I can't really remember some of these icons. So that's also interesting, some of the new stuff they are working on. So in this video I'm going to review these three products, but I mean, obviously, I'm just going to show you how they look like and the box and everything. Unboxing, well, not really unboxing because it's already unboxed. And then we will jump into the LinknLink application to see what the sort of things that you can do. And also, I'm going to show the integration part of it. Well, I have Google Home, so I'm going to show the Google Home integration part of it, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very, very similar for Alexa. I will go over to some of the Alexa specific details. So there is a lot to cover. I assume that this video will get quite long, but I think there's going to be some interesting stuff here. So let's get started. And the first one is we are going to look at the 3 devices, and I think I'm going to start with this eHub, which is the black one. And what you will notice that each of these devices are going to look very, very similar. So you have this sort of rounded shape, and then you have a micro USB socket in the for power. So this is just a long ribbon cable thing which terminates in a regular USB-A connection at the end. And what you can see here, you can see a reset, and they have these stereo jack connections, but really the only reason they are here because they contain this pokey device that you can use to reset. So nothing is used for this jack connection at the moment. So it is really easy to set up because you can unbox this, the cable is provided, and then you just hook it up and that's it. Again, one interesting quirk about these is you see this bulge on the cable, whatever it's called. This is actually the temperature and the humidity sensor, which I found it really strange, but it kind of, I don't know, maybe kind of makes sense if you want to place it specifically where you want to measure the temperature. I mean, this has the motion sensor and the IR built inside, so you would rather want to sort of like have it, you know, further up in the room so you can blast the IR and then maybe the motion sensor, but then the temperature sensor would be a more sensible location like that. I'm not really sure if that is the best use, or it would have been better if it's built into this unit. Maybe they wanted to have it separate because of like, you know, the internal temperature from this, the internals was skewing the measurements. So having this thing on the cable, it provides a much more consistent reading. Maybe that. So this is the main unit, and by the way, all these units operate completely separately. So even though this is called eHub, if you only need a temperature and the humidity sensor, or you need these two because you don't care about the IR, you can just buy them. So even though it's called a hub, the other 2 sensors don't require a hub because they connect to the Wi-Fi independently. And the next one is this temperature and the humidity sensor. So this one is white for some reason. And as you can see, the same deal here. So power connection, the reset, and the 2 reset prongs in the jack. You just push these back in. And actually, the one thing I didn't mention, that there is like a LED here. So when you power it up, then it blinks in various colors to show you that it's in pairing mode. And for this one as well, you see the actual temperatures and the humidity sensor on the cable. So that's cool. And finally, the motion sensor looks the same. For me, it feels like these soaps, the smallest soaps that you get in hotels, sort of like the same size and shape. And it also has the USB sensor, so USB connection, the 2 thingies on and the LED, but there is nothing really into it. So obviously you will find the radar sensor inside, but nothing really on the outside. And by the way, all these came in this fairly generic box, and there is a piece of and everything is very tightly packaged, so the sensor and the cable come in a separate small bag, and then you also get some documentation with it. So the documentation is fairly basic, but actually all this is in one single language, so it is actually rather comprehensive, but it really just takes you through the setup process, because then the rest of it is, well, it's either explained in the application itself. As we go through it, you will see that it actually has a lot of explanation text within the the application. But as you can see, it also goes through how you can train new remotes, how you can set up the Alexa and the Google integration, 433 megahertz training, and yeah, some other bits and pieces. So yeah, it's I find it fairly easy to get started with this, but again, I use so many of these products that it's not really a difficulty for me to get started. So I think I'm going to put these aside because nothing really is happening on them. So they are, mostly sensors, no relays, nothing like that. Nothing is going to click here. But now I'm just going to open up my application and see how the LinknLink application looks like. Okay, so the LinknLink application looks, for me, it looks a little bit like the TUI application. I mean, the main layout is similar, that on the top you can manage your homes. I mean, I just only have one single home, and then you put I think I had to put a city or something like that, so it knows the temperature and the weather in my home, and then you have the rest of the devices in a sort of like a list layout. It's not like a grid layout. And then you have some comments here that suggestions from the application. So this is the home screen, and you have a consumption screen, but I don't have any devices that manage or measure consumption, so I'm not able to use that. And you also have a routine screen, so this is how you set up scenes and automations. And there is also a me screen. And what we are going to do here is like use this third-party integration to set up the Amazon or the Google integration. But for example, you can look at the online documentation here. So that's how it is integrated into the app. And if you look at this screen, that also feels like one of the TUI screens. I mean, it's not really a criticism, it's just like, this is what I associate to. And then on the top, you also have things to add a device, add the scene, and scan a QR code or add the third-party service. So when I add a new device, then I can use that. Okay, let me just continue. So for example, when I add a new device, you can see that there are various ways how you can add a new device, like if you want to have remote controls, RF or infrared, then that handles by a separate step, as in like adding a new device. So when I added these three devices, then I use the add the new device, and you can see that what are the current devices that are supported. So I selected one of these, and this is how I was able to add it to my setup. And what I mentioned previously is that you can see that how much help is in the application as well. So it shows you that what you need to do, and then you need to enable Bluetooth, and then it uses the Bluetooth discovery to add your device. But then the whole process and the whole steps are very similar to what we used to in other applications. And again, nothing really happened because all these devices are added now. So you can see that it also gives you hints of what you can do. And also for the infrared and the RF, well, first of all, you need the eHub in order to use that device to receive the IR or the infrared signals. And then again, you can set up some devices here. There are some common types but I've already done that, so I'm just going to come back to that a little bit later. So let me just quickly go through the 3 devices, and I think I'm going to start the easier ones first, because that's the motion sensors and the temperature sensor. And the reason I'm saying easier, because they don't do anything else other than these two. So this is the temperature sensor, and there is a new firmware. Okay, I'm going to skip this now. So as you can see, it shows the temperature and the humidity, and it also gives you a graph. And it would have been a good idea if I keep these running for a couple of days, but I did not. So I don't get a lot of history of the graph here, but you can see that you can just go around here. So it's going to show you the history, and if you go into the history separately, you can see, well, everything just happens now, but you can go back to previous days if you want to view the history as a list. and immediately you can set up some alerts. So very easy to configure some basic things, like if you want a high temperature alert or a low temperature alert, then you can just enable it and you will receive a push notification, and you can do the same for humidity as well. And it also shows you the temperature and the humidity. So there is nothing really much here. If I go to the settings, then I can export the data. So I can select a start time and the end time, and I provide an email address, and within that email I would receive a notification email. It takes a little bit of time, like a couple of minutes, but then at the end that email contains a link where I can actually download the CSV file. And in the settings, I can rename the device. I can change the location. I have some device info. I can update the firmware, notification settings. I can see everything which is related to the device, like in what condition it sends notifications, and so I can add shortcuts to the screen. So okay, this is a sensor, not much is happening here. And there is one more extra option here, which is called the Modbus, because all these devices support Modbus communication. So this is one of the features which I don't think I have seen from any other IoT device. I'm not really sure how much is used. I mean, I like Modbus because I use it in many different sensors, but I don't think that I would use Modbus for this. But maybe there is like a special scenario where you have probably not industrial, but maybe like another control system which is not IoT capable, but then if it has Modbus, then as you can see, you can get the various values, so temperature and the humidity, and you can even get the limits as well, and the alerts through Modbus. And so that's nice. And of course, you can change the IP address to static here if you want to do Modbus communication. So it's very simple, but it gets the main things done, and you can see it in one screen. And now if you look at the motion sensor, so this one has a firmware update as well. So it's a very very similar thing. You can see that the main status up here. You can see a history of when motion is detected. And you have a couple of settings here for the main features. So the no person delay, it just means that if it detects no person or no human, then it will still wait for these amount of seconds before it reports that there is no person. So these are a great ways of reducing the small switching. So let's say that if there is definitely like movements in a 5-minute period, you can increase the no person delay to 5 minutes, and so it would just wait, even if it doesn't detect motion or presence, because this is a radar presence sensor, then it will still wait for that amount of time before it says that there is no person detected. And you can do push notifications, and you can also set up a period when this notification should be sent. So these are just simple app notifications that you can turn off. I'm not sure how much you would use these. And again, in the settings, you can just sort of the same type of features. And you can do Modbus as well. So you can see that you can see the current state, and it's very nicely documented here. I mean, I quite like the whole thing, how it is all documented, and you can see also the the test values, what you would expect. And even allowed ranges are mentioned here. So this is the motion sensor. And finally we have the smart bridge. So that's the black one which is here. So this has temperature, humidity, and the motion. So everything is included. And then the screen is different here because this can link additional infrared or RF devices. And if I go to the settings, it's the same, all the sub devices are either the RF or the infrared devices that are assigned to it. And you can see that some of the settings are moved here. So this is the no person detection, which I already mentioned. And you have a lot of Modbus settings. Some of the Modbus will give you access to infrared as well. Although I don't like how this is implemented. I think it would have been more useful to basically use Modbus to trigger one of the IR commands that are already programmed into the device, like the examples that you can see here. But that's it. I mean, that's how it's implemented, and you can, back up your remote settings and move to a different device, or just back them up, because obviously it will take a lot of time to train all your remotes to this device. So it's a good idea to back them up, and if anything happens with this hub, then you buy a new one and you can just migrate the settings over. So that's the thing for the the hub, and you can see that it draws a graph in a different way, but you can export the same thing just as with all the other sensors. So, fairly solid set of functionalities, but really the difference is going to be in the, in the automations, what we can do here. But first, before I go there, I just want to go through these, the IR and the RF functionality, because I think that's definitely unique with this device. So I have created a couple of examples. I didn't do a lot, but what I wanted to do is I have this very simple remote control that I got for an LED LED strip, and I have this very simple one button RF key fob. So one thing that you can do is that you can start adding devices to your eHub, and you can see that instead of just starting to train the remote, you first have to select a device type. So let's say I want to use a TV, and then, as you can see, it gives you like a list what you can do, how you can learn it, and then maybe if you have a Bluetooth remote, I'm not even sure, I don't have any device like that, and then you can start adding an appliance, and just like how it happens with IR, the device already knows like a bunch of different vendors. So if you have like an LG TV, that you can type LG, and then it's LG, and it knows loads of different TV types, and hopefully you can find a model of your device. But if you can't find a model, for example this this generic ER one, then you can test it. So, okay. So let me just, so now what I have done is I selected that I have an LG, but I wasn't able to find the exact model. So it says that you can, try the first, the second, and the third, or, match a button. So, like you train your, like the on-off button or something like that, and it will figure out which type of remote it is. But if I go all the way back in the brand, then I can also say I cannot find my brand. So what it does, then it just like, okay, let's start configuring your device, and let's start to learn the code. So I'm just going to name it as TV2. And well, actually it's not going to be the TV, but anyway. So and we are going to assign it to the smart home bridge, because again, let's say you can have multiple of these, like in each room where you have like TVs, and then you can start training your device. And so what happens now is that because you have defined a TV, it automatically selects a set of buttons that usually you have on the TV remote. And the one thing I could not figure out is that, I mean, you can't really change this layout, so it always gives you like a set of buttons. If you select a TV or a camera or a AC, and you have to work with those buttons. But that's good. So if I want to train one of the buttons and I click on this button, and again, it shows you all these hints of what you need to do. Okay, so this is not a TV button, but I can use it as an example. So if I do start learning, now I have to, so I have to just point at it and then press the button, and it says that it already learned this button, and then you can test it. And then, did you get the desired functionality? And then if I said yes, then this button is now learned. So now you can see that it's no longer grayed out, and I can use this button to send an on-off signal from this eHub. And then you start, training all your other buttons until you have trained them all, and your TV remote is now fully configured. So it's very easy to do these, and you just go through this, and you have all the the functionality in. As I said, it takes a little bit of time, but it's like half a minute for each button, so it's not really a big deal. And you can pretty much do the same one with the RF as well. And the only issue I had is that, for example, I have this very simple RF which has one single button, and I cannot really just I don't really have a screen where I have one single button. So I have to select something like, I don't know, power. And, okay, learn remote now. Oh, and you see that, okay, so it assumes that you have, okay, one gang, and I have an RF remote. So, and it's going to be in the office, and it's going to be the one gang switch, and it's going to be on this hub. And now let's use the device. But you see, it still gives you all these different buttons, and I can't just hide them. So what I'm going to learn now is, switch one on. So start learning. Learn simple RF code. Okay, so, and because it's RF, we have some additional steps. So I have to input the frequency. I know that these RFs use the 453.92 megahertz, which shows that it's the most common one. So this is where it gets a little bit, I think it's a little bit too technical, but on the other hand, I think it's at least versatile enough. So it pretty much just like handles all the different cases that you have. So next, and yeah, that's it. So it learned the RF signal, and you can test it, and then yeah, it was working, and now it's successful, and now it's unlocked. So again, as I said, it is a single button, but I have like 8 of these buttons, and I can add some additional buttons as well. I can't just remove these. So and anytime you click on any of the other buttons, then it goes into this this learning mode. So that's the only thing which I find a little bit difficult, but maybe this is not such a common scenario that you want to use these remotes. Like if you have like a light switch which has all these different lights and increased brightness, then at least you have the buttons to train, or all these screen buttons to train to the physical buttons. And this is how easy it is to train an infrared or an RF remote to the hub. And from this point, you can just use them. Like I have trained all these buttons, and then, I can send all these signals and they work. I don't have the LED strip here, but I tested them, and the RF works and the infrared works as well. And I've taken this one apart so I could see that there is like infrared diodes on every single corner. So it looks like a very powerful IR emitter. So anything that your normal remote can cover, this guy should be able to cover as well. On top of all these, we have one more additional thing that we can do here. So here on the plus, when I add a new device, well, we have covered the adding a new device. I use these to add these 3. And then we also covered adding the remote and the RF. But there is also these smart devices. And from this, I use the virtual button and the toggle state here. And what you can see here is that I have these toggle states, so these toggles here, and also have this virtual button. And they are really just good to, create them as, like screen controls, and then you can use them in scenes. And one of the one of the example, for example, for these toggles is, I'm going to link the video in the video description, but if you use Alexa, you can't set an Alexa routine based on, for example, temperature. So what you can see is that you can use this, you can create this virtual device, and then you can set up a scene so the temperature controls this virtual device, like I need heating or I don't need heating, and that virtual device synchronizes to Alexa, and then you can create an automation based on the state of this toggle. So I think that's a good idea. It just gives, you know, more opportunities how you can use these, well, how you can use some of the sort of like the variables or the automations. So that's a good example of how the scenes or the routines that are built in this application can be reused in places like in Google Home or in Alexa. So for example, what I have done here in the routines is I created a very simple, you know, nighttime, daytime toggle. Well, first of all, let me just go back here. So this is the nighttime and the daytime. They always have these two states, triggered or standby. And I created a routine which basically goes that if there is a sunrise, then the nighttime goes to standby. And if there is sunset, the nighttime goes to triggered. So you have one central switch which is being controlled by these two routines, and then you can build additional automations based on this trigger. So if it changes or if it moves to say it's triggered or standby, you can like turn lights on or lights off, and then you can use this one single device to do all the automations or trigger all the additional routines that you have. But let's see how these routines are set up and the kind of features that you get. It's going to be fairly similar. I mean, if you've seen, you know, eVLink or Tuya, but there are some, you know, small quirks here as well. So if I click on plus, and then you have this new scene where first of all you can enter a name. So this can be just, yeah, something like test, and you can also pick a different icon background for this. And we have the two main sections that we usually have. So it's the triggers, the actions, but we also have these conditions, which is sort of like triggers, but sometimes you want to put something into the conditions and not in the triggers. So I just quickly can, you know, create a trigger, and these triggers are the sort of like the usual suspects. So you can create a routine which executes at a specific time, but you can create also a routine which executes on a specific weather event. So you can see that if the current city weather is this, or the temperature rises or drops to a certain value, and again this comes from your home settings. So the app knows what your home is or where your home is, and then based on that it gets the internet weather. You can do the same with humidity, and I like the fact that it's like says rises to or drops to instead of like, you know, greater than or you know, less than. I think it's more sort of like human readable, I guess. I mean, this is how we would refer to these. So these are the simple weather changes, but I quite like the fact that it has these other things as well. So if the weather changes, but then it remains in a certain state for a certain amount of time. So again, it stays for the weather or the temperature and the humidity. So let me rise this to 28 degrees, and then it stays in that state for a duration of, you see these durations, or you can set up a custom duration as well. So I think that's also good if you want to trigger something based on like a certain condition being a longer lasting condition. I'm not sure if the temperature in your place would fluctuate that much that you need to set up a condition like this or a trigger like this, but at least you don't trigger on, let's say, you don't trigger the AC as soon as the temperature rises to a certain temperature, because let's say that would be the peak temperature of the day, but then you set it that, you know, if the if the temperature is consistently high for more than an hour, then you turn on the AC or something like that. So that's nice. I haven't seen something like this in the other applications, so that's definitely new. And it's pretty much the same thing for the device states as well. So now I can create an automation on any of the devices. So you can see I can pick one of my 3 main devices, but I can also do the virtual devices, and I can do on the virtual button and not on any of these devices that you can see here for some reason. So keep that in mind, that I cannot create an automation when, let's say, I press a button on the remote, which is I'm thinking, like, you know, if I turn on the TV, maybe I would have liked this device to pick up the signal and then also, let's say, turn on the lights as well. But I can't do it because I can't trigger on some of the IR things. But maybe it would have been, you know, difficult because unless you're pointing the device to, or the remote towards this device, then it's not likely that it's going to pick up the signal. I mean, it's probably different with the RF, but it would have been difficult with the IR. But let's say I have these devices. So let's use the main devices. So I can do, you know, temperature, humidity, or motion, or the fact that the device is offline. So the usual things, and of course I can add additional conditions as well. So let's say that it's not really a useful example, but either the eHub is offline or the motion sensor detects motion, I want to do something. But again, if you look at some of these things, so I've selected the device is operated or the device is kept in a certain state, and that's pretty much how the weather works. So let's say the temperature rises to 30 degrees and it stays there for more than 2 hours. I want to do something. So again, you know, maybe I have an AC which is supposed to be working in the room, but if it cannot cool the room below 30 for more than 2 hours, then I really need to do something. And in the, move that. And the action side, we can control certain devices. So this is where we can use the IR ones. So again, like I can do something with the, well, maybe in this example, the AC. So if I have configured the AC using the infrared, now I can just send a signal to turn the AC on. I think probably that's going to be the most common one for the AC control, because I can do the same with the TV as well. Maybe I can set up a routine which just turns off the TV. But to be honest, most of the TVs I have seen, the on-off button is always the same. So I'm finding it really difficult to set up an automation on that, because then if you just have a blind automation which sends the on-off signal, then if you already have the TV off, then it's going to turn it on. So that would need to be combined with some other logic, which I don't really know how I would be able to do with these devices. I mean, of course, you can like look at the power consumption of the power strip where the TV is plugged in, but I don't have any of these devices yet. So you can select the device. As you can see, I can select an infrared device, and I can select the button that I want to emulate. So if the temperature goes, then it's going to send an LED strip signal. Not that it makes any sense, I just want to give you an example. And of course, you can activate another scene, or you can do a push notification. So you can send notification to your phone that, hey, something has happened. And you can do additional conditions as well. So one of the condition is that it should only execute at a certain specified time. So you can see that it has a lot of different options here that you can do. You know, create very, you know, specific custom periods. And yeah, so that's quite nice. As you can see, there is no sunset or sunrise here. So that's why I thought you can use that toggle for that. or you can use the weather as well to a certain condition. So you can decide whether you use the weather here or you want to use the weather in the conditions. But I guess you can see what difference it would make, because if you put this into the trigger, it would trigger when that weather condition is met, like the temperature rises or drops. But then if you just use it if you use the weather in the conditions, then let's say you can say that the trigger is something else, but then it also checks whether the weather is at let's say a certain temperature. Or the same with the humidity. So that's also nice. And you can use the device, some other devices as well here to use as a condition. And also the other reason you would want to use these conditions, because as you can see, I've added 2 triggers to this routine, and the 2 triggers are in OR relation. You can see it here. So this routine would trigger if the temperature sensor raises temperatures above 30 degrees or there is a motion detected, but it's not AND. So you can create an AND condition with the, adding the condition here, because that would be evaluated, in conjunction with the trigger. So that's one other way of looking at it. And you can also create a group. It is just like, grouping your routines. And that's pretty much it. And then you are done, and then you save your routine, and you have these test routines, and it shows you a couple of icons, what kind of actions or devices it uses, and then you can just quickly enable and disable these. So I think the the functionality is sort of what we expect. There are definitely some quirks here with the the state remains or the weather remains or stays in a certain period. I think those could be quite useful, and if you wouldn't have those, then it would be really difficult to implement them as routines. Okay, and finally what I wanted to mention is third-party integration. As I said, I only have Google Home, I don't have Alexa, so I'm only going to be showing you the Google Home integration, but I'm pretty sure it works pretty much the same in Alexa as well. I mean, probably mostly the same. And I have done the linking already. Actually, I think I've done it twice, because some of the devices are appearing twice now. But you start integration from this LinknLink app, which actually it's really nice, because you just click on this link now and it does the whole integration for you. Probably you get a pop-up that from Google that you allow LinknLink to have access to your devices and that sort of stuff, or add devices to a Google Home account. But then it took a couple of seconds, and then Google asked me which devices I want to bring over to Google, which room I want to put them into, and that was pretty much it. So if I go over to my Google Home, you can see all my devices here, and I put all these devices into my office, which have some other devices as well, not just the LinknLink devices, but you can see the the humidity. Oh no, I don't have them twice. The reason I have 2 humidities and 2 temperatures, because there is a humidity and the temperature sensor here, there is a humidity and the temperature sensor here, there is a motion sensor in this one and this one as well. So this is why I have 2 motion sensors. And by the way, if I hold on to the white thingy, which is that, then we will see one of the temperatures going up. But as you can see, it's pretty much everything that I have is shown here. So I just need to do this one-handed. Is any of them are going up? Not yet. Okay, anyway. So for example, I have the TV on. So the user interface knows what buttons I have configured. I mean, I haven't configured all my TV buttons, so I'm not sure if this is the maximum what Google can show, but you can see that I can control, volume and volume down and mute and unmute and on and off from here. And then when you click on this, these corresponding RF signals, IR signals will be sent out from this device. And then we just configured the second TV, which I only did the on-off button, so it only shows on-off. So that's good. And then we did the same for the 1 gang switch. It only has on-off. And I have, what else do I have? I think I have the LED strip here as well. So that also only has the on-off and the key fob as well. So they both appear as lights. So, you know, Google just grouped them together. But yeah, and I can click on this, and I think there is actually something with the RF, because for every single RF button I get this notification that something has gone wrong. But actually now it has switched the LED lights on. So of course I don't see anything, but it sends the IR signal and the RF signal off as well. And oh yeah, you can see this one has gone up. So that temperature sensor coming from the eTHS. And by the way, if I go into the settings, I think, no, it just says that it's coming from the LinknLink. It doesn't say anything else. But you can see that all of this stuff is here, and of course you can start doing automations. And if I do like a household automation and I start adding you know, start condition here, when the device does something, I should be able to scroll down to the office, and I see all the humidity, the motion sensors, and I'm not seeing temperature here for some reason. And of course you cannot create a trigger on any of the infrared or the RF devices either, just like you can do it in its own application as well. So that's how you could use this. Obviously the good thing about this is that you will be able to control all these devices from here, I mean, you can use the LinknLink application as well, but if you use the Google Home, then you can, you know, operate the TV from here as well, and some of the, you know, other infrared devices like, you know, stereos and ACs and that sort of stuff. I think this concludes my review of these LinknLink devices. So again, this is the eHub, this is the eTHS, and this is the eMotion. So this is temperature, humidity sensor, motion sensor, and this combines all of these devices plus infrared and RF. So these are small and great devices to give additional automation for your home, even though they use the LinknLink application, which is sort of like, you know, a separate application to like Tuya or EV-Link or Home Assistant that you use, but it has plenty of integration with, let's say, Google, Home Assistant, or Alexa, so that you would only use the application to set up these devices, you know, learn your infrared remotes and your RF remotes, and then maybe configure some basic routines, but then you can do the rest of sort of like controlling devices and then creating additional scenes from those main applications that you use on a daily basis. If you are interested in any of these devices, you will find purchasing links in the video description. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.